Hello and welcome to the Confusion Wrestling Podcast, the last bastion of independent wrestling. I'm your host, Rob Kammer, and it's going to be a busy week here at Casa Kammer. Got a batch of wrestling coming up the next week and a batch of interviews coming through too. Just keep on grinding away. But you know what? You know who else is grinding away? Our guest this week, Brother Bedlam, graduate of the Wrestle Factory, working all over the Philadelphia and kind of like northeastern coast region over there, based out of New Jersey and whatnot. Super cool. Got some talking done that I wasn't expecting to, get out of it, but that's the same way you could do for all my guests, I could argue. But on the other hand, not all my guests have traveled the country in a minivan, so that's a thing. And also, to be realistic, that shouldn't have surprised me, because when I reached out to him originally, he was already on vacation out west, out at Yellowstone. So he's like, yeah, I'll come on, but can I come home first? I'm like, totally. You don't need me bothering you on your vacation. I have obviously already bothered you too much. So that being said, let's go ahead and just kind of jump into it. Let's get this interview going. No more stalling, except of course there's going to be stalling because I need you to click links. And so we're going to take a brief pause to the cause so you can find out what links you need to click. And we'll be back with Brother Bedlam. Hey folks. The Confusion Wrestling Podcast has become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even, top-of-the-line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, Confusion Wrestling Podcast. As I said at the top of the show, we have a special guest sitting in the studio today. He is East Coast standout. He is Brother Bedlam. And I'm already going to botch names, even though it's a simple name, because that's how we're doing things. And no retakes on here, because that's how I roll. But Brother Bedlam, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing good. It's a nice mellow day for me in terms of the wrestling world. It's been a wild summer in terms of bookings and traveling. So it's nice to just be at home and not have a whole lot to do other than be on your podcast, which I'm excited about. So,
well, the catch-22 of that is if it's wild with bookings and travel, it means you're getting booked and you get to travel, which could be better than the alternative of sitting there waiting for people to give you a call.
Yeah, I'm not complaining at all, for sure. It's like I said, it's been very full summer, and it's looking to be a very full fall, and it'll probably hopefully be a full winter. So I enjoy the moments of just calm and at home that I can. So,
but I'm a homebody, so I totally understand that. We've had our little busy end of summer here at this household, and then then October's going to come, and then we have to go all out for Halloween, which is what we do around the camera household anyway. I like to start off everything with the always original, never asked before question in the world of wrestling podcasting. What brought you into the realm of pro wrestling? What made you a fan?
There's two moments that if anyone knows me, that I always talk about in terms of how I got into wrestling. The first of which being my grandparents are first generation from Italy in this country, and when they came over, Bruno Sammartino had the belt, and he was their icon. That's I think it was a bastion of hope and for Italian Americans coming over. So it had always been in my family from when I was a kid. I grew up with the Attitude Era, and I remember my cousins and I and my uncles stunning each other and suplexing each other, and just kind of always just being running around the house being maniacs. It's always been there. And then the moment that I really I remember as coming online as a wrestling fan is going to be super strange and a really weird match that I'm going to reference right now. But my uncles and my father would take me and my cousins to the local VFW show that came through New Jersey every now and then. And the match that I remember being like, hell yeah, this is awesome, and this is what I want to do. Was a it was Balls Mahoney from ECW versus a over the hill Nikolai Volkov. Um, and the main event for National Wrestling Superstars, I want to say, in like 2000 and however long ago it was. I'm not really sure why that match stuck out to me, but that is the one that I was like, I feel like I was like, oh yeah, pro wrestling's the thing. And then I'd been a fan for like a really long time, and it was much later in life that I actually was like, you know what, it's time to actually give this a whirl. So, yeah, that's what got me into it, and I've been a fan. I mean, I'm still a fan. I've been a fan for a very, very, very long time. You know, I always kind of kept in touch with the product, meaning WWE, and then when it kind of fell off when I was in college, I was kind of like, whatever. I was really into like Jim Cornette shoot interviews because like who isn't into that angry man yelling about whatever he's yelling at, and then yeah, took the leap like 2.5-ish 2 years ago. So
Right.
yeah,
I'm still not gonna lie. I still try to wrap my head around Balls Mahoney versus Nikolai Volkov.
yeah.
That
I
is
think like 20 years later, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
like that is some like random like video game or wrestling simulator style booking. Like that's something like I would book in the GM games that I used to play, just because no one was signing Nikolai Volkov and nobody was signing no one was signing Balls Mahoney, and I
Right.
very rarely did I ever play as like the WWE. I thought it was more fun to play as the indies and have that extra challenge.
Yeah, I think that's why it really stuck in my mind because it was like such a you have VFWs in Illinois, right? Like every wrestling fan like what a VFW is. So it's like to be in that setting as a child, eating like $1 hot dog and like watching some like very old like communist villain trade blows with like this absolute New Jersey hometown hero maniac who's like wielding a chair and is like coming out to like big balls like. I think just just the complete absurdity of the situation was like, oh hell yeah, this is like this is where I need to be. This is where I want to be.
I mean that like I don't lie. Like there's a lot of things in my life that like it like currently enjoyed or used to enjoy just because of the factors like such as that. Whether it was wrestling or actually I used to work residential, and that was one of the things like someone asked me like why do you why do you do this? This is jobs. You're not paid enough. And one of them was just like, I like the factor of it, because there's something weird's happening every day, and wrestling kind of like throws that out there too, whether it's a character or in this case like a match where like it's a fever dream of like hardcore icon Balls Mahoney versus Beppo Mongol, I think he used to be, but also Nikolai, a multi-time WWF Tag Team Champion Nikolai Volkov, who
very strange,
who also like is no stranger to the strange, because he used to work at like a lot of like no ring shows too. Basically, if you just booked him, he just wanted to wrestle. He didn't care.
Yeah, which that's like I kind of love. Like the same thing with Balls. Like, I mean, he's always had like the stigma of like hardcore, but like if you like really read into or watch like interviews with him, like he was a super talented wrestler that like loved wrestling and like was really skilled at technical wrestling and just like wanted to do it, and he just did it, and learning that later in life, like I've always admired. Like he's like on my Mount Rushmore, partly because I was born in Jersey, so it's kind of like a hometown thing, but also like for somebody who just like put his whole like everything he had into wrestling, that I've always had a huge amount of respect for Balls.
Oh, and he was an underrated like technician. I mean, we just think of the ECW stuff because that's where his bread and butter eventually came. But like he was, I mean, he was never known as a technical guy, but like he could actually do what we consider like a classic style match. I mean, that's like he worked for Jim Cornette, and obviously Jim Cornette wasn't going to have a whole lot of like the hardcore stuff just for the sake of being hardcore.
Right.
For those uninitiated, he worked Smoky Mountain as Boo Radley.
Boo Radley. They killed the cat.
Yeah. At least until he got a shot in the WWE and was Santa Claus.
Yeah. And then before that, I think it was the Buddha Singh. He was a sheet gimmick for a while. Apparently, I watched an interview with him where he said that's why he lost all his teeth, because he would use Thompson's water seal to spit the fire, and it sealed all his teeth. So that's yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, just to show you dedication to the professional wrestling kids.
Yeah, like that's. I mean, I've never known anyone to use Thompson water seal for that purposes. Like even like Ricky Steamboat, who did the fire stuff, like had some variation of kerosene which you had to be,
Yeah, there's way better options for sure.
Yeah, which is, I mean, not good for you, but it's not like you're swallowing it either.
No. Cornstarch, apparently. I used to know a girl in college who would blow fire, and she said she used cornstarch, which I thought was
Really?
surprising. Yeah, I she showed me one night, and I was like, "That's no." It's because it's like you like kind of, you like the powder. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was
powder is powder. Well, and corn powder
yeah.
specifically is prone to, prone to combustion. I especially know this because I live in Illinois.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I was raised down in the middle of the cornfields, and my father was a fireman, and that's how it, like, what was this fire? Silo blew up again, and
Friggin' silo blew up friggin' corn.
Yeah, but like, I just don't think of that as being like kind of like the misting thing you do for like fire breathing.
Yeah,
But
I was
then
very
again,
surprised.
learn something new every day. But you talked about being like kind of a lifelong fan and getting into the kind of I don't know, we'll call it like re-getting into wrestling kind of like later and choosing to do get like actually participate in wrestling later. Like, what was the impetus for you to cross the guardrail, so to speak, and get trained?
Yeah, so it's good. It's like a bit of like it's not a super long story, but like, so yeah, when I stopped watching wrestling and I started watching like the shoot interviews and stuff, and then it was 2019, I moved to Colorado with some buddies, and that happened to be like when AEW, it was like the year that AEW like came to the forefront and started running weekly shows, and so that really re-sparked my like love for like watching professional wrestling on TV, because me and my buddy would come home from work on Wednesdays and we'd race home and we'd just watch AEW. Because I mean, I remember when that first like year and a half, 2 years of AEW was gold. I could go back and watch most of those matches and have a great time. So I really started thinking about wrestling and still as a fan. And then fast forward like 2 or 3 years, I guess it was, me and my girlfriend moved to Philadelphia, which I'm gonna take a shot at Philly right now. And I know there's a lot of wrestling history and lore in Philadelphia, and I'm really sorry, but I fucking hate that city with a passion. It was the worst time of my life living there. Just like it's just a gross, dirty, angry, disgusting city. I don't give a shit. Come out in Philadelphia. So I think my girlfriend recognized, how miserable I was, and she knew I was a fan. So for Christmas one year, she the Wrestle Factory where I train, they do like, you can either sign up to be a full-time student, or you can like have these little bite-sized chunks of wrestling training. And so I think she just thought it'd be like a fun little, hey, here's like a little 7-week thing to cheer you up. A little did she know that like I was gonna go like full bore and then continue to pursue it. So like I had my first 7 training sessions with Quack, absolutely fell in love, and I was like, shit, like I think I was 27 or 28 at the time. I was like, all right, I'm already kind of late in the game, but like I'm gonna give it a go, because like DDP started. He was like 32, and LA Knight is like fucking ancient, so like why not? I'm gonna go for it. Finished the 7 weeks, signed up for another 7 weeks, and then at that point, my girlfriend and I had made the decision, after living in Philadelphia and like truly hating our lives living there and just hating like just being in that city, we decided to like convert a camper van we bought and just like fucked off for 10 months and travel the country like in a camper van, which put my wrestling training on pause for a little bit. But like the entire time, like I was like driving around, like I would like write promos and like think of gimmicks. If we were like, the first iterations of my gimmick, I took like promo pics in like the Rocky Mountains, because we like visited Colorado on this trip on like in that time span. So like I had these really weird like promo pics. I would like make promo videos. And eventually the van thing came to an end. There's like a really old van that was gonna blow up. We came back to the East Coast, and we were trying to figure out where we wanted to live. And I was like, hey, listen, like, and like if we could go back to like the eastern greater Philadelphia area for a couple, like at least a year, like I really wanted this wrestling thing. I really like the factory. Quackenbush is like an immense fountain of knowledge and wealth of like wrestling intellect. Like I think that school is really good for me. I'd really like to give it a shot. And so she like graciously, we like decided to move to Pennsylvania, and yeah, it's just been kind of full steam ahead since then. And it's just one of those things that like I don't know, if you're not in the wrestling world, like it's hard to explain to somebody, but like if you're in this world and you love it the way that I do, or like anyone, like if you love it, you love it, and it doesn't really need a reason as to why. It's just like when I'm in the ring, when I'm training, when I'm performing, when I'm like whatever, talking to fans. Like it is just like the best time of my life, and that's where we're at right now. And it's awesome. It's been a very short time so far. It's been about a year and a half of me taking actual bookings, but like it's been absolutely incredible. So yeah.
I need a backtrack for a moment.
Yeah.
So you're living the van life for almost
Yeah.
a year. Like,
Yeah.
where does that thought like come into? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I am spoiled, and like I like my creature comforts. Like, what was the impetus of saying like, well, like let's just go see the country and ride the
Sure.
road
Yeah.
and just live that way?
I mean, for me, it definitely is like in college, I was like in like a punk band, and like we would like book DIY tours and like so we like traveling's always been being on the road's kind of like being on the road like a very DIY gross kind of setting has always been in my blood, and I've always enjoyed that as well. And then like one of my goals like post college was like I'm gonna just like bop around different cities, and like I want to see all the states eventually, and I just kind of want to figure out. I just want to see this country. There's like lots to see, and I just want to do it all. So that was like traveling and like seeing all the countries and like trying to live the van life at some point, and like being semi like nomadic was always like something that I wanted to do. So when I met my girlfriend who had like very similar interests, we talked about it for like a long time, and we moved out of Colorado. We left Denver to move back to the East Coast. So we lived in Denver. We met in Denver, moved to Philadelphia, and then did the van again. But when we left Denver to move to Philly, we took like 4 months off. And like I don't know how he did this, because in my Kia Soul, not even a van, like in Kia Soul, we traveled the country for 3 months and saw a bunch of states and national parks. And then we banged out like 20 or 25 states and like a bunch of national parks. And so we kind of have always had that passion of like being on the road and traveling. And like that's also one of the parts of like wrestling that I really love, that gets me to do, like, it allows me to do that. So once we did the Kia thing, we like then she came home one day like, hey, I bought this rusty ass van off out of a gas station from an ex mariachi band for like cash, and we have this now. And I was like, okay, that's fucking. What are we gonna do with this? So it like sat in her dad's barn for a couple of years, and then like we just talked about doing it forever, and then like we were just both so like beaten down by Philly. We're like, fuck it, like this is the time to do it. Like the van's at your dad's house. Like I just quit my job, you just quit your job. We saved some money. We're gonna go fix this van up, and then we're just gonna kind of roll with that for as long as we can, and try to see a bunch of national parks and see a bunch of states. And that's kind of what we did. It's always been a passion of both of ours. So
Well, and like pulling back the curtain for everyone, like when I first reached out to you, you said it was Yellowstone, correct? When I
yeah,
reached out,
yeah.
so it was,
I turned 30 turned 30 a couple weeks ago, and so again, that we're super into national parks, so we just took a trip out to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons for my 30th birthday, which was fucking awesome.
like that's crazy nuts. I mean, it's never too like I'm just gonna throw out there for everyone. Like, not that you've listened, anyone's listened, especially last week where I had Bad Nanny on who started wrestling at 47, but like it's never too late for anything. Like I actually went to college with someone who was a school teacher for 10-15 years, and as a hobby it was going through like wanted to go to every state park,
Yeah,
and somehow and like she would blog about it and just like talk about the experience, because she would go by herself and just like, oh, I went here and this is the kind and this is where I stayed and this is what I did, and like it started getting traction. Like enough people like caught the blogs, and like that now that's her gig now. Like she writes freelance
that's amazing.
about traveling the country and what it's like to travel alone as a woman in America, and it's just like crazy go nuts. And it was in her case, it was just kind of a hobby that she did during the summer, and now
That's
she's
awesome.
just on the road like full time for the most part. But
I love that.
crazy go nuts. So, but I have to ask you, so what was your favorite, like in your travels, what was your favorite place to kind of like drive through or camp out at?
I mean, I really love. I mean, I've always loved the Southwest. So like anything in like that, like Four Corners region. Colorado, Wyoming, Montana has always been like some of my favorite. Maine in the summertime and the fall is absolutely gorgeous. Love me. I love. We have this. I didn't spend a lot of time in Illinois, other than Chicago, but I had a great time in Chicago. I won't say that like Chicago style pizza is better, because I just can't. But I will say that the Chicago style dog is untouchable. That shit is like chef's kiss. Um, and then honestly, a couple like states that I never thought would be as cool as they were. West Virginia is absolutely gorgeous. If you ever get the chance to like go out into like the nature part of West Virginia. It's stunning. And then Wisconsin was like such a sleeper that I did not know like had such a beautiful like Kenosha, like on Lake Michigan, absolutely gorgeous. Ohio, I mean, there's like a lot of there's not very few states that I'm like, like they kind of suck because everything kind of has like, especially in the U.S., like topographically just so diverse, from the West Coast to the East Coast and to the North and the South. Arkansas can suck my ass though. Arkansas, there's nothing. No one ever needs to go to Arkansas. I don't think. I don't really give a shit about Arkansas. That was kind of Arkansas and like maybe like Kansas, like Although, please, like, if you're gonna book me in Arkansas or Kansas, like, I will come to Arkansas and Kansas. I don't care. But those two states are kind of, I don't need to go back other than for bookings. But
that's what I say about Chicago. Actually,
okay, fair enough. Yeah, yeah.
I hate Chicago, but if someone wants to pay me money to go to Chicago, I'm your Huckleberry.
You don't have to pay me. I'll go for free from wrestling. I don't care. Like,
Well, there you go. I mean, I guess I would go for free if the proper opportunity to at least network and whatnot it came up. But but no, I like you talk about how, Chicago's nice. Oh, I hate Chicago.
I could totally, like, as someone that doesn't like was visiting, I could, like, I'm sure, like, living in the area and like living in the state, you have a much different perspective on
I mean, I could have like I have two different rants against Chicago, and I mean, okay, let's be real. Neither of them are appropriate for the podcast, but one is a little bit more about demographics and state politics and blah blah blah. But but I will say, like, yeah, Wisconsin is a sleeper hit. Like, that's because like there like even like the urban areas of Wisconsin like really don't come off as an urban area.
No,
I've gone to Wisconsin. I've gone to Milwaukee, and it was like a ghost town.
Yeah,
on Sunday afternoon, which was weird because it is a metropolitan area, and like nobody was on the interstate for a chunk of it, like in the city. Like,
I love it. If I can go somewhere there's not people, I'm very happy. Like, the place where I live right now is like a small city, but like it's not like I can go out and like. People, like, there's not that many people out, and I absolutely love it. Although I did recently get recognized twice, like, from wrestling, which was like a very flattering moment, but it was like super early in the morning and I hadn't had my coffee yet. And I was like, fucking please, I will kill you where you stand if you do not stop talking. I mean, I was very, like I said, very flattered. It was a very cool moment, but like the id in me was like, I'm going to fucking lose my shit if you don't let me leave and get my coffee right now.
So yeah, I don't have that problem. Luckily, like, this podcast is mostly faceless, so like even the places where people hear my name multiple times a month, nope, I sit next to people and they have no clue who I am. And like, on one hand, that is great. On the other hand, like, it probably means like I'm not making not making enough money off this podcast. But
you gotta get the money maker out there.
Right. You hear that? I hear that SCW Pro. SCW Pro would like totally just like put my face on things if I gave them my face, but I don't. I just give them the podcast logo, and then I show up and yell obscenities at the one called Manders when he comes home, because that's
is that the local like indie near you? Is SCW Pro?
Yes.
Cool.
And for everyone else, if you're in the area, Confusion Wrestling Podcast, proud sponsor of SCW Pro. But our big claim to fame, like, in addition for it being like 20 years old, more recently for fans, it's the unofficial home of the one called Manders. Unfortunately, him and I are mortal enemies, so don't come for Manders, because you'll just see me whip him. I digress. But yeah, so going back to your training, you came in through the Wrestle Factory, and this fascinates me as someone who this was a big Chikara household, and you're actually the first person I've had on the show that's been through the Wrestle Factory. So like, what was that experience like? And I know you already referenced that Quack was a fountain of information, but like, what was it like working directly under him?
So it's been absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, full disclosure, like, Chikara was never a promotion that I watched. I just like wasn't. I don't think I was like into wrestling, like watching wrestling like that when Chikara was like really doing his thing. But like know the lineage and the history and like the people that come through there, and to just like to have that in that school is pretty palpable, I think, and is pretty insane. But it's very like it's the thing that I really enjoyed about it, especially with Quacks, because Quack doesn't run the classes all the time, but when he does, like they're very lucha heavy, which if you have seen me wrestle, I'm not wrestling lucha, but like to be able to train in that style, I think is super beneficial because because every now and then, like my fat ass will like throw out some crazy lucha movement. And people are like, "Holy shit, I didn't know he could move that quick" or whatever, And then also to be able to like be kind of like adaptable and be able to work with someone that does lucha. I'm like, "Oh, I can base for you. I can take that. And that victory roll, no problem." That's on that alone has been pretty awesome. But like, like. So the three main coaches there right now are Mike Quackenbush, Oleg, formerly known as Oleg, now Castle Rolfenstein, and then Danny Danger, who all have like their different styles of teaching, and are all very vastly different wrestlers. So to have that kind of spectrum of coach has been really awesome. And then just to speak to Quack again, like he's done it all he's done it all in this business, and he's been around for so long. Like a lot of people might not like maybe unless you're like a real fan, like might not know who he is, but like you're definitely if you're watching wrestling now or been watching wrestling for the like last 20 years, you have watched something that he has touched or had a hand in. And they're also like really no bullshit like coaches. Like, if you suck at something, like they're not gonna be like, oh, it's we'll get them next time. They're like, oh, you suck at this and you should probably get better at this. And so I really appreciate that. Classes are offered, Monday through Thursday or Sunday through Thursday. So you can always go and learn something. It's very close to where I live. The ring is, I'm pretty sure the same Chikara ring, which is super fun to work in. And then like recently over the summer, I got a chance to like actually wrestle Quack at an event. And that was an honor first and foremost. But also like the coolest learning experience because like I'm like relatively new in my career. So to be able to work with someone who's been in like 30 plus years and like just to understand how like that works for him and to be able to be a part of that is like pretty indispensable as far as like a learning experience. And now, Quack is kind of, he's been really busy with like being on the road and doing seminars. And so Danny and Josh have definitely stepped up into more of a wrestling capacity, like a coaching capacity. And they also in the past year started a promotion called where is it? Royalty Wrestling, which is closely related, just tied to the school. So we have a chance to train, and then every other month we wrestle in front of what's become a really like a nice, sizable, like consistent 300 person plus crowd. And we also and they have the Chikara ties. So like the very first show we ran, like Hollow Wicked was on the show, was on the card. Josh is wrestling on the card. We've had Drew Gulak, we've had all like the Colony of Ants have wrestled there. Next month we've got Murloc wrestling, so it's awesome. Like all this Chikara influence is kind of, even though Chikara has not been a thing for a while, is still in that school and that promotion pretty heavy. So it's been pretty great to be able to learn in that way.
That's awesome, and you definitely I think hit the nail on the head. Is that Quack is a name that a lot of casual fans don't know, but he is, with how wrestling has evolved into the 2020s, he's kind of had his fingers at least indirectly in everything. And I'll just throw out AEW just
right
as an example. Yes, it's Tony Khan and the Young Bucks, which the Young Bucks are, if I remember correctly, are former Campeones de Parejas. But someone fact check me on that one. But like there's a lot of Chikara alumni like in the ropes at AR. Your Orange Cassidy's, Claudio Castagnoli. Claudio is like day two Chikara guy, and former trainers.
Matches are insane.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I recommend like any of those. Like the finishes are just.
Yeah.
I get winded and watching them because they're so fast paced to begin with, and then remembering that Claudio is like 6'6". 250 pounds of pure muscle,
right?
Like even back then, and he's just tossing Quack in the air, and then also like doing the lucha flips to go along with it.
Yeah,
is just freaking amazing. But yeah, so Claudio, the former 2.0, Angelo Parker, Matt Menard, come through the doors.
Brody Lee.
Yeah, Brody Lee, Mr. Brody Lee.
Ruby Soho. Or Ruby, whatever. Yeah, Ruby Soho.
Yeah, she was towards the end, and like even like looking at like WWE, like Sarah Del Rey is a big part of the training staff now, and she was a big part of Chikara
Yep.
in the middle years. Like it's all over now, and it's just kind of like crazy go nuts, and like and now just and we're finally just now starting to see like some of the like Chikara's spiritual successor promotions, like you talked about royalty, which I want to just digress on that real quick. Like, do they stream? Do you know off the top of your head?
They're on like everything we've done on YouTube, and it's nice. It's broken up like in matches, so you can like watch the entire card. You can watch like one match here, one match there, which is pretty, yeah. So if you go to World Wrestling on YouTube, you'll find everything that's been happening with them so far. They've got an Instagram, they got Facebook, so they're easy to find if you look for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't dug deep quite yet, but I'm just like, oh, cool. Like,
Yeah.
as I was trying to check out some of your stuff, and it was like, oh, you need to like take a look at some of this stuff too. And then, yeah, but there's so much different wrestling streaming, whether we count YouTube or IWTV, High Spots, Triller, list goes on and on. Like, just throw that out there now, so I can just add that to the list.
Yeah, exactly.
But going back to, but yeah, there's so many like spiritual successors, because also in the area Power Pro Luchas started up as well, and they are
Yep.
very very much in the style of old Chikara and featuring the Spectral Envoy or
Yeah,
Legion
dude,
of
I
Rod
love.
or
Oh, dude, I love so much. I love them. I like whenever they kick Big Dan's ass. It's my absolute favorite. I love the Spectral Envoy.
I mean, I've always loved Ultra Mantis Black, and then just like don't get me wrong, like he's a fantasy gift for this show, but just like being able, but just the combination of the wrestling, and then he does his own like hardcore punk stuff on top of it
Yeah,
too, which is
it's so
just
good.
which he does in the character of Ultramantis Black,
It's
mask
amazing.
and everything. It's somewhere hidden away in this house. I have one of the EPs in physical form, just
Oh, sweet.
sitting on the
That's
shelf
fucking awesome.
that I don't listen to because as much because the wife loves Ultramantis Black, but she's not a fan of the screamo hardcore punk stuff. So that and the CD's only like 6 minutes because it's all hardcore, and each song is like
He's talking a minute long.
yeah, it's like a minute to
Yeah.
90 seconds. It takes me longer to dig out the CD and put it in the player than it does to listen to it all, unfortunately. But like, yeah. And then Hollow Wicked, I mean, if we're just name dropping folks, like he I've heard rumors of things, so I won't like go into those, but like he deserves so much more in this wrestling business. Like he
Oh
deserves
yeah.
all the wrestling money.
Oh, they just take everything I have, just give it to Hollow Wicked. It's he's the man. He's the best.
But crazy.
Yeah, it's cool. You talk about like spiritual successors to Chikara. It's like you're right. It's like Royalty, Power Pro, and then like I would even like there's the L-Back. I'm not sure if you're familiar with L-Back. But like I feel like those three kind of promotions are really like have taken like what Chikara was doing in different ways and have kind of kept it alive. So it's nice to be part of that lineage. It's really cool as a fan to be part, and as a wrestler to be part of that lineage.
And on top of it, you got to actually work Quack, and I know he's not taking too many like, well, I don't want to say physical bookies, but he's not stepping in the ring near as much as he used to be too. So like that had to been just freaking amazing to like share the ring, and just I feel like you can't help but not you can't not learn something being in the ring with Quack.
Yeah.
I say this as someone who's never had a real wrestling match, of course.
Yeah, it was an absolute honor, and it was also like really unexpected. We were like running a bunch of shows this summer for he runs a nonprofit called Wrestlers for Change, and they do some really great work for like raising money for. We did a lot with the Special Olympics this summer to raise money for the Special Olympics, and so it was like one of those shows, and typically typically they're less serious matches because you're performing in front of most times a not wrestling educated audience that like just pops for like a hip toss or like they don't care, they just get really into it and they're really excited about it. So that's kind of what that vibe was. And then like we pulled up to this place in New York, and I think it was like New York, and like I saw the run sheet and I was like, Bedlam, Quack. Oh shit! And I was like, what, and it was just like I was like super like I was nervous. First of all, I was nervous as shit because I was like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to make him look bad. Like I don't know if I can if I'm ready like to do this with him. And then he was like, listen, shut up. Like I coach you. If you weren't ready, we wouldn't have done this. And it was just being. Like I'm at that point in wrestling where it's like I'm still learning at like a very high rate. Like I mean to say like I'm so new that I'm constantly, every match is like a learning experience. I'm always like, like, okay, that I learned that this guy, okay, that I'm kind of still piecing together like in a very broad way. And so, but it being in the ring with him was just like, it was so different. It was like, you could just tell that the man has been doing it for 30 years, he's a master of it. And as nervous as I was, it was offset by obviously how calm he was because he's done it forever, and we just had a really fun time. It was a really, really great match, and the crowd loved it. And yeah, it was one of my favorite matches I've ever had. So,
and I'm not gonna lie, it's like one of my like low key favorite matches, like favorite questions to ask people when I know that they've like when a trainee has actively worked their trainer in a professional ring outside of training, because of course everybody works their trainer in one way, shape, or form during training because that's how you train. But then a year down the road, or however long, getting the opportunity to then actually step in the ring 1-on-1, 2-or-2, like however the format takes, like I think that's interesting, and always wonder like what kind of, like, are there extra butterflies? Are you worried about taking their head off, or is it just like, dude, let's just go?
It was a little bit of all that. I mean, like I said, like, I know he's got a lot of career injuries over his 30-year career. So like, obviously my first priority is to like not hurt him, but then, yeah, I mean, it was kind of like nervousness. And then like, but once you're in there, and like, he just quickly, like, he snaps, he locks in. And like, I mean, it's weird. Like at training, I can be kind of reserved because like there's like it's kind of a cold start, so I kind of have a hard time. But like show day, like once my music hits, I'm locked in, and so it was really just like it was really cool. It was yeah. That's all I can say. It was fucking awesome. It was yeah.
And to kind of like piggyback off of this, especially since you're so young into your career, and especially given some of the information that we've kind of discussed in the podcast, especially kind of like we'll call it the bohemian, almost like hippie lifestyle, like you've described your life being like, where does Brother Bedlam, the character, kind of come into that? Because Brother Bedlam is not the kind of guy I see going, traveling the wilderness and state national parks, just enjoying nature.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I have a hard time talking about like the gimmick itself, but like it definitely, like I've always been a fan of like old school 80s wrestling. Like that's my bread and butter. Like that's what I love to watch when I have time to watch it. I mean, my all time favorite wrestler, I'm sure you can tell, is Bruiser Brody. So I've always kind of pictured, aesthetically, it's pretty similar, but I've always kind of pictured Brother Bedlam as more of like a kind of a cult figure, like less, not really like a Bray Wyatt kind of way, but like more like a retro kind of 70s 80s kind of cult figure, which I don't know what that says about me as a person, but he's just like kind of a nasty piece of shit, that is there to swing a chain and win, and simultaneously like reflect to the audience like how shitty they are. I think at the same time, like like I watch a lot of like documentaries like Jim Jones and Manson and Shinrikyo and all this shit, and like just like there's these dualities to these cult leaders that like there has to be charismatic and charming because that's how you amass a following, but then it's also often met with like extreme brutality and cruelty because that's how these people like retain the power that they've garnished from being charismatic. And that's kind of where I see Brother Bedlam. Although Brother Bedlam was not that initially. Brother Bedlam started as a whole other, like aesthetically a very similar gimmick, but like a whole different kind of shtick. Are you familiar with the movie Clerks 2?
Oh yeah.
All right, so you know the donkey scene and Kinky Kelly. So my initial plans for this gimmick were to be a character called Kelly the Killer, and it was like more of like a wild man kind of non-verbal character that had like a female kind of like Safari Hunter S. Thompson looking manager that would like come out and talk shit for me. And eventually they would get my opponent so worked up, they'd be like, you know what, screw it, I'll fight a woman, I don't even care. and then the tagline would be like, well, Kelly can be a guy's name too, and then my music would drop, and I would come out and like wreak havoc. That was like the initial kind of gimmick, but like, and maybe one day, we'll resurface Kelly the Killer. But yeah, I'm like still like in the process of really that's a lot of where my hiccups or my like shortcomings come right now. And when I'm like wrestling, is that like I'm still trying to really solidify like who and what Brother Bedlam is outside of just like my moveset or like what I look like. I'm trying to like really kind of piece it together or make it more cohesive or more so that's kind of like me rambling. That's kind of where I'm at that gimmick right now. So
no, that's fair. And I think that's understated with a lot of like wrestlers in general is like people talk about who their character is, and then like something that like I have a friend who's really big into this is how does this transfer into the ring though? Like
yeah,
and that's the thing is like because that's like he has like with early Kairi Sane, he had an issue with her because he's like, oh, she's a pirate. Like, what pirate stuff does she do? Like, why is she a pirate? And now she's as soon as the bell rings, she's just really good professional wrestler. Like, why should I care about her piratism, or vice versa? Like, if I liked her for a pirate, why would I want to watch her match? Because she only has like pirate named moves, and then she like marches for like I can't remember if it was a corner drop kick or whatever. Like that was his big thing. It was like how does this character translate once the bell rings? And I think that's kind of like understated. Like, yeah, it's great to have a 5-star match. And pop the crowd, but like how does one thing transfer another? You could have like we could think it's the greatest character in the world, but like the bell rings and then you're just boring. And I won't name names on some of the folks I think about that out loud that I'm critical of, but like but again, like you could be super interesting and then the bell rings and now you're boring because you don't do like whatever.
yeah, yeah. And I don't. The thing with me is like I don't mind making mistakes, and like right. I don't want to like stink out in place, but like I don't mind making mistakes like in the ring in terms of like figuring that kind of thing out. You have to take chances with ideas to figure that out. Like, and a great example is like last Saturday I worked a match and at a promotion called PPW out here in Pennsylvania, and there's a pretty heel heavy crowd at some shows, and I've kind of garnered this like little pocket of like fans, even though I'm like a piece of shit heel, and so I'm like, I noticed them last show. So I go out this show and I hear them like, I see them cheering and kind of like doing this bow thing. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let me like lean into that, like kind of like cult leader thing. And I like, stick my arms out and I like lay back over the rail and like kind of fall into their arms. And like, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. That's some really good character work. But then like the promoter like brought up a really good point. He's like, listen, like that was cool, but like that didn't do your face any favors because then they started cheering you and booing him. I'm like, that's really, and so like, so I'm speaking to that because like that's a really great point and a very valid point that he brought up. And I'm glad that he educated me on that. But at the same time, I'm also glad that I took the risk to try that idea out. So now I know like that part of the crowd interaction is not good. Isn't going to work because it gets my character across, but it doesn't get like the business across. So it doesn't do any favors for the actual business. So it's very cool. Like a fun idea. Glad I tried it. No, it's not happening again. And now I'm next month I go, I'm gonna be like, oh, whatever. I'm not gonna like really shit on them though. Which
just tease the fall and then
and then they can eat crow.
Yeah. But no, that's a good point. And luckily, I mean, that's the perk of being like so early in your career is that you can just kind of like, not that you can never experiment with tweaking your character or whatever, but just you have a little bit more freedom to do so rather than being a 15-year vet and having some sort of notoriety and then just kind of like being the guy who's trying to be hip and
trying to be trendy and stuck in this thing that you like.
But you also, I mean, you also never know, because I'll put over Warhorse, Jake Parnell. Like he spent a lot of his career, either like being a quasi Viking or just being I dress like a Viking, but I'm a really good professional wrestler. And then like nearly 10 years into his career, like it all just come together perfectly. And then like the war horse, at the time, metal loving, head banging, just guy who's heavy metal and metal in the ring as well, just takes off. And now he's taking a total left turn with the character now with his nihilism thing. But it's not an overnight process. And no one talks about how long it takes to be an actual overnight sensation, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. No one talks about how long. Yeah. It actually, because it does. It takes forever. And like, that's the thing. I think you have to be ready. You have to be okay with like reinventing yourself. And like, it's like you said, to speak to your point you made earlier, like it's easy to be like this cult leader character, like in my Instagram post, or like in a promo that I cut, or like, but like to merge that into like what's actually happening in the ring. It's just like the thing that takes time. And like, yeah, it could take up to 10. It could take however long it needs to take. I think as long as you're working towards that kind of synergy between like those two places, I think that's like kind of how great characters and great wrestlers kind of evolve. I also like went to art school and like learned very early on like most things that you make suck initially, and you have to like make a lot of shitty things to eventually get the good things out. So I also don't hold Brother Bedlam necessarily. Like he's very like the gimmick's very important to me, but like I also don't hold it in like a regard where like I'm like afraid to like change it up completely, have like a different idea. It's also fun to like wrestling's wacky and weird and fun. So like I have like a whole other gimmick that I run in Massachusetts that's like very similar but different, and that kind of character is allowed to do like goofy, wacky shit that I kind of keep away from Bedlam. But yeah, it's like it's all experimentation. It's all experimenting. It's all just like trying new things. And like I think the thing that really separates people that like maybe stick around for like a year or 2 years or like whatever, like I'm constantly thinking about wrestling and my gimmick and how to improve it and like where it goes and like how like everything I do is like I'm constantly thinking about it. And I think you have to have that wrestling brain 24/7 in order to like really capitalize and move forward in the industry. It's like it's an extremely difficult industry to get traction in. So
oh, I mean, yeah, as you put it, it's a 24/7 thing. I mean, especially anymore because you are freelance, like, well, you specifically, but most wrestlers are completely freelance, which means they have to do everything. And so you have to be entertaining in ring. You have to do things to get people excited to come to the shows to see you, to generate that buzz about the show, and then by proxy you. And that involves the character work, social media, huge nowadays.
I fucking hate it, but it's
right. I wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for this here podcast, especially in today's climate. But no one's gonna know to tune into the Confusion Wrestling podcast if I didn't like shout at Blue Sky or Instagram or Facebook and be like, hey, I got somebody cool on this week, totally listen. Brother Bedlam's awesome, you need to listen. But if I'm not out there screaming it, it's that tree falling in the wood. Did I have a podcast if I don't scream about it?
Right. Does the Confusion podcast exist if it falls in the woods?
But I think there's some folks that prefer that tree to fall on me, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, but it's this thing is like you do, and to equal like the podcasting thing with it, because we just point out like you always got to scream about like the social media, but yeah, you have to kind of like you do if it's something you want to be successful in, you do have to live it, just because like you have to make sure you are going with the times, going with whatever the niches and marketing that's in now, and just upping your game just in general. Like in your case, since you're especially young in the ring, like making sure making sure you're having the entertaining matches needed to get you over in one way, shape, or form, to get that next booking, or to stay where you're come back to the same company, or get a storyline, or move up the card, or etc., etc., etc.
Which is super fun, and I like love doing it. But yeah, it's like a 24/7 job. Like if I'm not wrestling, I'm watching wrestling. If I'm not watching wrestling, I'm posting on my Instagram. If I'm not posting on my Instagram, I'm making merch. If I'm not making merch, I'm doing and it's really rewarding. Like I thoroughly enjoy it, and it's been like a amazing outlet for my creativity. Like I went to school for painting and art. I don't really paint much anymore, but like the being involved in like the creative process of this wrestling world has been really fulfilling. And like I don't mind. Like It gets tiring like anything else, but like I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like it's a really fun way to live life if you enjoy this kind of thing. So I've been very lucky so far.
Well, I'm hoping, if you're having fun, I hope it stays fun. Because really, at the end of the day, like that's the most important thing is that, whatever you do in life, it needs to be fun. Because otherwise, is it, especially if you're not making money off of it, is it really worthwhile to put that much effort into whatever?
If you're not making money and you're putting your body through a bunch of bullshit that bodies weren't meant to do, it better be fun. And the minute it's not fun, you won't see me anymore. I'll just disappear into the woods and no one will ever see me ever again. But,
Okay. Well, to keep you from disappearing off in the woods, we'll go ahead and wind these things down. Just to be appreciative of your time. Where can we find you in the coming weeks, and where can we find you on social media?
Yeah. So I'll plug the socials first. I have a Facebook, Brother Bedlam. I rarely check it. So if you're trying to contact me or get some merch or book me, the Facebook is like the worst way to do it. Promoters out there, best way is DM me on Instagram. It's brother_bedlam, BEDLAM on Instagram, or you can email me directly at bookbedlampw@gmail.com. Also, if you want to stay in the loop with what I'm doing, I post all my dates on there, and I've got merch for sale. So help me survive the hellscape that is capitalism and buy my merch. And so everything you need to know about Bedlam will be the Instagram is the central hub. Everything gets cross posted from Instagram. There is a TikTok that I've never posted on that maybe one day I'll post on. We'll figure out how to do that. And then there is a YouTube channel that's currently I'm trying to like catalog all my matches that I've had into like a central kind of channel that'll be out eventually when I am able to find all these matches. That's where you can find me on the webs. And then as far as dates coming up, this weekend in Pennsylvania at New Era, I'm making, fuck it, whatever. New Era, you can find me at New Era this Saturday, the 20th of September. I'll be making my debut there. The following weekend, I will be in Connecticut for Pure Vanguard, making my Connecticut debut and my Pure Vanguard debut. The following week, I'll be back in Pennsylvania for Royalty Wrestling. And then the 11th of October, I will be in Pennsylvania at PPW, another mainstay of mine. So that's where you can find me these next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I am rehabbing a fracture in my heel. So I am taking some length of time off through the fall to rehab that injury I've been dealing with for quite a while now. But I will be doing a kind of live stream thing called the Sunday Sermon on Sundays. I have the dates on my social media. Not really sure what kind of format that's gonna take, but there'll be something. You'll see my ugly mug once a week on Sundays through October, November. And then I'm looking for bookings for late December, January in 2026. So anyone out there, it's my goal right now is this summer I booked almost the entirety of New England except for Rhode Island, which has been super hard to get into, and then Vermont. Hey, Green Mountain Wrestling, if you're hearing this, I'd love to come work for you. I'm cheap. You can pay me nothing, and I'll build your ring for you, and I'll have a good match. So get at me. And then, 2026 and beyond, I'm looking to expand outside the Northeast. My furthest places I've been are Montreal, Michigan, but maybe Illinois is next. You never know. You can come see me, come get me out in Illinois. I travel. Like I said, I travel. I love traveling. I don't mind doing it, and I'm willing to as long as I can leave on a Friday night and get back by Sunday morning at 11 to get to my job, I will travel whatever that circumference of time is. I'll do it. So book me. I'm happy to come.
All right, there you have it. Let's get them expanded in 2026. But Brother Bedlam, thank you for coming on. It's been great.
Thank you.
It was such an interesting twist and turns to your story, man. It was great.
Yeah. I really appreciate having me on. And like I said, please stay in touch, and we can do this again sometime. Or if I'm ever out in Illinois, I'll give you a holler, and we can avoid Chicago together and enjoy some wrestling.
There's a lot of Illinois outside of Chicago. I'll just leave her at that.
Yeah.
The Confusion Wrestling Podcast is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to help support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is helpful as well, because word-of-mouth advertisement is very important for us small podcasts. My social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky are at The Nova of Cass. That's TheNovaOfCass, and Facebook is MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual tip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, go to patreon.com/Casanova, that's CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Chris Zach, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast store on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the affiliate links in the description below. For business inquiries such as ads, sponsorships, and etc., please email rzkamer, Kamer, at comcast.net. Thank you all for listening.